A lot of experts are predicting that the Atlanta Hawks will make some major changes to their roster. They have 2 point guards that's just not truly working out, and they have the #1 overall draft pick. And because of that, a lot of people are saying they're shifting things around. And in this video, I'm going to give you 4 potential trade spots, destinations, trade scenarios for their current existing big, Clint Capela. Now, I think Clint Capela is a phenomenal player, and I think he fits the Atlanta Hawks very well. But with the #1 pick, a lot of people rumoring that the Atlanta Hawks will select Alex Sarr. There's just simply not space. It can't be Clint Capela, Alex Sarr, and Onyeka Okongwu. And because of that, here are 4 potential moves for Clint Capela. Now, Clint Capela makes about $22 million a year, and he is an expiring contract after next year. So this could actually help a lot of teams who are currently in that second tier of the luxury tax, who want to get a little cheaper for the following year and think about going forward what they should do. Now, like I said, I think that we should keep Clint Capela. I just think he's a phenomenal player for $22 million. We get a lot of upside from him, but there's just simply not enough space, and there's a lot of other needs that we probably need going forward. Especially, I think this team wants to see what Onyeka Okongwu can go forward. So here we go. Trade #1. Now, I think this is probably the best of the trades. Unfortunately, Clint Capela's desire, people don't really want him too much. Yes, he's an expiring contract, and yes, he's a pretty good big, but apparently his trade value has kind of diminished. So trade #1 with our rivals, the Miami Heat, and we would get Duncan Robinson and Orlando Robinson for Clint Capela and a second-round pick. Now, a lot of people, hey, I already know the comments are going to be busting. Hey, you're stupid. That's a Atlanta-heavy trade. And just hear me out. The Miami Heat are in that second and probably will be very, very close to paying a lot of money in their luxury tax going forward. And they need to get cheaper. They really, really do. And I don't know if they can eat Duncan Robinson's contract, that $19 million for an additional 2 years. So I think they bring in Clint Capela. Not only does he pair well with Bam Adebayo, that would be a defensive-minded team, which they're looking for. They are super, super defensive-minded, and this will allow them to have some future flexibility going forward. They have to pay a lot of people on their roster and have an expiring contract, as well as getting back a second-round pick, which they can use to invest in the future. I think this is a win-win for Miami. Now, in regards to Atlanta, they get an elite shooter, and they also make room for their big locker room. Like I said, they have Onyeka Okongwu. People are reporting that they're going to have Alex Sarr, and because of that, they just cannot have those many bigs on the roster. They also have Bruno Fernando, and with this, it gives whoever point guard, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, an elite shooter that can come in, come off the bench, can start some games, and give them some elite 40% shooting from the three-point. And is also 6'9" and 6'10". So I think this trade works out for both teams. There's going to be a lot of people say this is a dumb trade, but I think it truly does work out for both teams, especially with Miami Heat getting more and more and more expensive. There you go. Trade #2. Now, there's 3 big teams that I'm hearing Clint Capela's name linked to. It's the Memphis Grizzlies, it is the OKC Thunder, and then it's the New Orleans Pelicans. So in this trade, I'm going to have a scenario for the New Orleans Pelicans. And within this trade, I would have obviously Larry Nance and Jordan Hawkins trade for Clint Capela and a second-round pick. Now, Atlanta Hawks have a lot of second-round picks, and I think they can pair that with Clint Capela to get some depth value, some bench value. And I think Larry Nance Jr. is a phenomenal pickup if they're able to get him. I think he's a good role player who can come in, he can start some games, he's very athletic, he can play good defense, and he can kind of hold down that power forward position if we decide to bump Jalen Johnson to that third position, to that small forward position. Also, we begin back Jordan Hawkins, another defensive addition. I think he can also score when he needed to. He's a bigger guard, and he can come in and get some needed depth, and he can create and make plays for himself in that second unit. So I think whatever we can get for Clint Capela works, and if we're able to get 2 bench players who can help the team, and some of them could potentially start with some injuries, I think that'd be a good pickup for them. Second team that's really interested in Clint Capela is what I'm hearing is the Memphis Grizzlies. And in this third trade scenario, I have the Memphis Grizzlies trading for Clint Capela, and they are trading Brandon Clark, Zaire Williams, and Santi Aldama for Clint Capela and Garrison Matthews. Now, people are going to be in the comments, what are you talking about? This is not going to work. in this, I would just say I'm looking at this as maybe one-sided to the Atlanta Hawks. So in this trade, I would throw in that second round for the Atlanta Hawks. So it'd be Clint Capela, Garrison Matthews, and then the second round. Now, I think a lot of people are saying, hey, this is one-sided toward the Atlanta Hawks. But I also think Brandon Clark is not getting the job done. He's been seeing his minutes kind of sputter here recently. And the Memphis Grizzlies need a true center at that position to lock it down. They need someone to play along with Jaren Jackson. They don't want to really want to run small ball. And Jaren Jackson is very skilled. He can play that 4 position. He can shoot threes. He can make plays. And they really need an anchor on their defense. And for them, I think they'll be able to part with Brandon Clark. And then Zaire Williams, I think he's also another player that they'll be able to part with. Another scenario and another reason why I think Memphis will be able to trade some of these players is because they're in that second tier of the luxury tax. They have to play Desmond Bane. They have to pay John Morant. They have to pay Jaren Jackson, and they want to get some cap salary space. And I think if they can move a couple players, get that 1-year contract from Clint Capela, and decide going forward, hey, we want to keep him, or give some flexibility to move on and draft another player going forward, I think that's something they will do. Now, in regards to the Atlanta Hawks, they'll get Brandon Clark, a good defensive specialist. He can play that 4 or 5 position depending on what you have going on. He's also comfortable coming off the bench, and he can come off the bench in certain situations and anchor that second unit. I think Zaire Williams is the same. He's a big, lengthy, kind of guard, kind of wing player. He saw some limited minutes. We see he can score at times. He averaged about 9 points a game last year. But the big thing about him is he's a long, lanky defensive player who can add some needed depth for the wing position for the Atlanta Hawks. There's one thing that the Atlanta Hawks continue to need, and that's wings that can play defense. And I think Zaire Williams as well. And then Santi, I think that just threw that in to make the deal work, as well as Garrison Matthews. I just threw that in to make the deal work. I think the true deal is Clint Capela for Brandon Clark and Zaire Williams. So leave a comment down. Let me know what you think about that. I bet most of you will hate it, but I'm telling you, some of these teams, they're having to pay a lot of money. And I know Clint Capela is $22 million a year this year, but after that, he's done. He's an expiring contract. And to a lot of teams, that may look very enticing. This last trade, I think this one's actually pretty legit. This one, so the first 3 trades for teams who need some luxury relief. This is for a team that kind of sucks and also needs a luxury relief, and that's the Washington Wizards. Now, in this trade, I would have Landry Shamet and Johnny Davis in a second round be traded for Clint Capela. I think that allows not only the Washington to kind of secure a center position going forward, but if they do intend to re-sign Clint for a long-year extension, they found their center of the future. But also, looking at it sideways, if they say, hey, we don't really like Clint, he's expiring contract, they can move on from there, and then they can wash their hands. Now, in regards to Atlanta Hawks, Landry Shamet, we've seen what he's done. He's played very well for the Clippers over the last few years. He's bounced around. I think he played for the Sixers, played pretty well. And he's just not only a guard who can defend, but he can also score and shoot that 3. And there's one thing that the Atlanta Hawks need. They need depth at the guard position, someone who can defend at the guard position and shoot 3s. And so he can come in with the second unit, run the second unit, get his own shot. He can start if there's injuries. And I really like that fit for the Atlanta Hawks, especially for giving up Clint Capela. Also, you will receive Johnny Davis. Don't know too much about Johnny Davis. I know he's a bigger wing who could shoot. I just kind of honestly threw him in the deal to make the deal work. And then they would give us a second because I just don't think that's truly a fair deal. I think Clint Capela is a better player than a lot of people are saying. He's a guy that was like a 10 rebound kind of guy week after week, and there's a lot of teams that truly do need that. I know his trade value went like this, but I find that it's very up, especially on teams that aren't that good, aka the Washington Wizards. Now, if you agree with any of these trades, if you don't, leave a comment down below. Let me know. I like seeing your comments. Last video I did like this, I got roasted, but hey, that's totally fine. And if you're interested in seeing that last video where I got absolutely roasted, and in looking for trade values and trade pieces for DeAndre Hunter, check this one out right here. And like always, peace.